And good evening, and welcome to the science fiction and fantasy writing stream with your host. It's Drew Wager. We are back. And sorry to have missed you all last Wednesday. Not last Wednesday, last Thursday. I hope I did apologise for missing out. I'm pretty sure I did. But yes, I was not here. So for those of you who are tuning into my normal No Man's Sky stream on Thursday, I do apologise. I wasn't there. I was in fact having a waffle. Which I know is what I normally do on the streams, but actually this was a genuine waffle, actually a physical waffle that I was able to consume, which had maple syrup, caramel and some ice cream on top of it. It was jolly nice indeed. I was thinking of you, honest, as I was consuming said waffle, and I said to my wife, I said, you must take a picture of me eating a waffle because it just has to be done, right? So anyway, there we go. Anyway, lovely to... Lovely to see you. Well, we've got lots of people on here tonight. This is fantastic. Thank you all for turning up. This is brilliant. So let's just quickly go through it. JR1988, Mad Monk, Procy Boy 2009, Game Then Grave, TW Twiggy, Glenn is here, Commander Terra Firma, Feather of the Crow, Mad Monk Soft, Wintermute is here as well, Commander O'Connor is here. Hello, Alexa. Sorry. Gigi is here, Alan is here, Chris Viking is here, Kizzy Nick's here, good to speak. Winnie is here as well. Stephen, Stefan, Chorus, I can't even read, but I think Nim Duskred is here, and so on and so forth. This is excellent. So welcome everybody. And Douglas is here. Osland, wow, fantastic. So waffles aside. Apologies, there wasn't a No Man's Sky stream last week. There will be one this week, but my streaming might be slightly irregular over the next couple of weeks, for which I do apologise in advance, because we're in Clan Wager household. My youngest son has got his 18th birthday coming up, so we do have some various celebrations planned, which will impact streaming, I'm afraid. But after that, about the weekend of the 23rd, 24th, it will clarify. Okay, hopefully things will calm down. But there we go. So apologies for the occasional misstream. But anyway, we are here tonight, and this is the science fiction and fantasy stream about writing, which we do on Mondays. Okay. So that's why we're here. So welcome to any of you who are kind of lurking around in the background thinking, what the hell is going on here? Welcome to you in the first place. So it's very, very lovely to have you on board the stream. This stream is all basically about chatting about writing, authoring books, making things, sometimes complaining about other people's science fiction and fantasy, all those sorts of things, okay? The whole creative process of making books, writing stories, telling tales, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what this Monday stream is all around. On some of my other streams, as you know, I play some games, usually not very well, but we have fun, and that's the point. Okay, it's a happy, friendly place to talk about things. Now, this is all about mostly science fiction and fantasy, because those are my two favourite genres. Okay, so I do quite like a little bit of romance. I don't mind mystery and drama, but if you give me a choice, science fiction and fantasy is where I will be. Okay, so that's primarily what I'm interested in. That's certainly what I write. Okay, so tiny little bit of introduction. I mean, most people on here I'm sure will know me, but very tiny little bit of introduction for those of you who might be watching, who are going to think, that's right, well, let's do this guy. Well, who is he? What does he do? I'm a writer. Okay, surprise. I have I think 9 published books to my name now. I think it's 9. I lose count. It's quite a lot. I was aiming for 10 in a decade and I didn't quite make it. And I will short. Actually, am I working my? I can't do maths either, as you could tell. I think I might either be working on my 9th or my 10th. It's somewhere around there. So I've been doing this for a while. Okay, so that's good. Last year, or was it the year before? I'm getting a bit confused now. This stream actually put together an anthology of science fiction stories and published it on the internet. And Glenn will chime in momentarily with a link to 9 Streams of Consciousness. There's my cue. Oh, there's his cue. Which is the anthology that we put together on this very stream, using Twitch as a collaboration platform. Multiple authors from across the planet, never met in person, most of us, and yet we managed to create an entire book using this thing. So that's the sort of stuff that we have done in the past. In more recent times, we've just been talking about the process of writing and all those kind of things. So that's kind of what we do. So anyway, so let me catch back up with the chat because it always goes on rather quickly. No Man's Sky, yes, I'll touch on No Man's Sky because that's going to be exciting too. So Drew, serious question, says Nim Justice. Steady on, fella. Serious question this early into the stream. Is Moonwriter a man who can stand astride a horse, or a horse that can use a laptop and a camera? Okay, so that's a reference to my current work in progress, which is Doom Dark's Revenge, a novelisation of a computer game from 1985 or 1984. So there we go. A Moonwriter. Well, Moonwriter is my nickname for the Lords of Midnight, I suppose. As a man who can stand astride a horse, or a horse that can use a laptop and a camera. I think both are quite good, actually. I'm going to go for a horse that can use a laptop and a camera because that's just amusing. You're a writer when you forget how many books you've published. For anyone who needs an introduction, he picks on a character whose book's called Maru a lot. I'm going to live that one down, don't I? So Glenn, there we are. Glenn's got the link to the Amazon book that we published. So we actually went through, what's interesting about Nine Streams of Consciousness is we went through the entire process of doing the background lore, working out a timeline, writing the stories, and there were a number of us doing that. Nine different authors and 15 stories I think we had in the end. And that was trying to herd cats, and we weren't even in the same country. All we had was the internet. And we had to go through the creative process, the characterization, then we had to go through the editing. Okay, and that was interesting because, friendships had been forged in the writing, and editing is one of those things that tends to make you into, hated enemies after a while, because effectively you've got to pull apart each other's work. And we've done a bit of that on this stream as well. We've done a bit of editing of each other's work live, and that's quite an exciting experience, particularly if you haven't done it before. Okay, so that's quite an interesting thing. And that was for some people who weren't used to that process and who were new to it. That was quite a hard process of going through the process of editing work and basically saying this bit doesn't really work and this bit needs to be better and you need to rewrite this because da 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 da. So we went through it. We learned a lot. So it was really, really good. Have I heard of a book called Only Forward? I haven't, no, so I'll check that one out. I'm sorry, Drew, but you have been overtaken recently in terms of most books I own by a single author. By Ursula Le Guin. Well, that's fine. She's an excellent author. I've got many of her books myself, so that's quite good. Only Forward by Michael Marshall Smith. Excellent book. Okay, I'll check that out. Thanks for the link. That's the other thing that's nice for me because I don't, you sometimes get this impression that because you've written some sci-fi, you know everything. It's absolutely not true. And I don't know half of the authors, and people are always recommending me things to read, which is great because I like to have a big to-read pile. So that's a really, really good thing. Kenny Baglar is here. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. Evening, Drew. Will the waffle of confusion be one of the special weapons in Doom Dark's Revenge? I think it should be. I think maybe I can slip. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get waffles past Chris, who's the lore master for Lords of Midnight. I suspect that may be tricky. I did manage to get my clock through. I hope you noticed that in Lords of Midnight. There was a clock, which is an unusual item in a medieval world. But I did manage to get the clock. And for those of you who don't know about the clock, then I haven't got time to go into that now. But there is a clock. There's a thing. I managed to squeeze that in. So waffle of confusion. It's a very powerful talisman, the waffle of confusion. The waffle of distraction. Yeah, no, I think it would be the waffle of confusion whose power is in distraction. I think that would be the correct way around. His second book, Spares, was the inspiration behind the film The Island, and he sued them and won, as I recall. Wow, okay. Well, plagiarism is another issue, and I've come across this myself a few times, that people have plagiarised things that I've written and then passed them off as their own original work, which is not actually very nice. It's very, very unprofessional, and it shouldn't. It clearly shouldn't happen. I've had that on a number of occasions, and it's just wrong. Don't do that. Okay, It's very naughty. How to get Chris on board? They aren't waffles. They are fantasy waffles. Fantasy waffles. Ugly. I'm still not quite sure how that's going to work. This is not the waffle you're looking for. So anyway, so there we go. So that's kind of what this stream is all about. It's a light-hearted look at usually science fiction and fantasy sort of stuff, but mostly around the idea that, you know, there are people out there who like creating stuff. So I love nothing more than the whole process of creating something new. Okay, some new, you know, whether it's lore or whether it's new adventures or whether it's new stories or whether it's new characters in those sort of things. Those are the things that really excite me. And over the years, now I've had lots of help along the way myself as a writer. So people have given me good advice, and sometimes I've even followed it. And it's nice for me. Now I'm beginning to become of a man of advancing years, you know, all those sort of things, to help other people who are interested in writing, because and you know, this whole Twitch thing, this whole internet thing, blah 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 blah, blah, now sounding like a proper old man, you know. It wasn't like this when I were a lad. Gives me the ability to go, here's stuff that I know, you know, and if you're not as old as I am, which you probably aren't, some of you are, I know. But you know, there's this opportunity, okay, for me to basically say, look, here's stuff that I know. You may know this, or you may not know this, but you know, ask away. If you are anybody who likes to create stories, okay, and whether that's you've got a desire to write a book, or write a short story, or just write a novella, or write a comic, or or anything basically that is basically, you know, some sort of writing, some sort of creative endeavour. That's what this stream is all about, okay? And I'd love to be in a situation where, you know, when I'm in my care home in I don't know, 25 years, I don't know, hopefully longer, but let's wait and see. A cheerful thought for a Monday. That, you know, I suddenly get some letter from somebody who says, you know, Drew, back in the day, 25 years ago, when the internet was young and, you know, everything was green and pleasant, you know, I followed one of your streams. I'd just like you to know I'm now a successfully published author, and thank you very much for the inspiration back in the day. Now that would make my year. Stupid guy can still, I'm still compos mentis enough. But you know, on a serious note, I, as a writer who've had, you know, a modicum of success writing novels, would love to see other people do it, because it's not the inaccessible, out of the reach thing that a lot of people would have you believe it is. Okay, it just isn't. Not today. You know, the barriers to being able to put a book out there are much lower today than they ever have been in the past, because you know, the internet and the ability to do most of the stuff yourself, and the gatekeepers that used to exist in the publishing world. You can just bypass them, and if your stuff is good, and you know, insert your own definition of good here, right? Because different people have different versions of what good means. Then you know, the world is your oyster, literally. And I mustn't use cliches. Bad, Drew. So there we go. Shiny red flag says theft. It's simple as, well, it is. Yeah, if you pinch somebody's idea without their permission and pass it off as your own, it's theft. Yes, so that unfortunately is a reality out there, which is not good. Having to deal with plagiarists is another sign that you're a writer. I suppose that's true. It's a sort of a backhanded compliment, isn't it? Do I like Clive Barker? That's another one I haven't heard of, you see. So there we go. I need to write these down. I pop up my notepad of things to do. So there we go. Do you think there are critics out there that simply criticise us because they can? Brackets Yamic. That's a tricky one. I think the problem is an awful lot, and I'm lucky in this regard that I'm not in a position where I really need to worry about my audience, and that's not to, you know, say I'm not grateful for everybody here turning up and joining in. It's just I don't have a financial worry concern about it. Okay, so you know, if I stopped streaming tomorrow for some reason, or YouTubing or all of those other things, financially that wouldn't affect me. Okay, so I don't need to do things for financial reasons. At least not this sort of stuff. I just want to work and, you know, pay bills and stuff, but not It's not all about Twitch and YouTube. So this is for fun. Okay, this is for fun as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not sure all other streamers and YouTubers are in that category. So sometimes I feel some of the outrage and some of the some of the opinions that you sometimes see online are manufactured more for the reasons of actually getting views than they are a genuine nastiness or criticism on behalf of the actual person. So I think it's sometimes more for the effect than it is for the content. But who knows? I don't know everybody's individual circumstances, so I can't really say. Right, so hang on a minute. They are offerings to the deity of Wefaluz, the god of confusion and verbiosity. We're going to live the waffles thing down. Having to deal with... Oh, we did that bit. Do you think... Yeah, I've done that one as well. Right. I recently read Embers of War by Gareth L. Powell, and in the end I got the impression it would work extraordinarily well as an anime. He is on my list. In fact, Gareth is somebody I'd like to have on the stream at some point for a chinwag, so he kind of is on my list of people to hopefully invite along at some point. So I haven't yet read his books, however, so I feel I should before I invite him onto the stream, because then we can talk about them. And I might send him a copy of some of mine, and we can compare notes and see what we think, because that would be good. So and Gareth's reasonably well known on Twitter and stuff as well. So and I think I'm right in saying that Embers of War is being optioned for TV, I believe. So that would be an interesting thing to talk about as well. Rob says, question for you: what's your opinion of Kindle Unlimited? Does it hurt authors financially, or is it a personal choice? And do you see it as a way forward for more people to read your work? So Kindle, this is a difficult one because it's Kindle Unlimited basically allows you to reach more places within the Amazon ecosystem at the expense of making sure that you're making your whatever it is that you've published Amazon exclusive. So basically you can get further inside Amazon, but you have to be exclusive to Amazon. So now the issue there is you kind of, it's kind of supporting a monopoly, which part of me doesn't like on principle, right? The flip side is depending on who you are and what you're trying to achieve, it may be a much faster route to success, depending on, again, what you define success as, because you're just going to get more exposure. And to be frank, today, Amazon is probably 80-90% of the market in terms of where you're going to sell your story. Particularly if it's an ebook, i.e. it's kind of going to be Kindle based, and or an audiobook, because they've pretty much sewn up the market on the Audible side as well with Audible, sorry. So there is a lot of financial stroke awareness benefits to being on Kindle Unlimited, but you are kind of selling your soul to Amazon. Are you happy with that, is the question. So that one I think is a tricky one. But there are, obviously pros and cons. So writing can be taught, but the imagination to creatively write has to be inside. I think, Commander O'Connor, I would agree with you. I think you've got to have, and most writers I've spoken to agree with this. They struggle to define it, but they agree with it, is that you have to have something in you, something maybe slightly odd in your psyche, that requires you to tell stories. It's like it just won't stop. You've got to sit, even if, almost as if nobody even reads them. You have to satisfy your own, I don't know, soul or something in order to, you just have to tell stories. There's something in writers that forces them to put, well, in the olden days, pen to paper, and nowadays, obviously, laptops to screen or something. Those sort of things. And you just have to tell stories. There's something in us as writers that it just gnaws at you if you don't tell stories. You can certainly get better. Absolutely, you can get better. I mean, I've still got, and I've shown it on the stream a few times before, I've still got the original stuff that I wrote as a teenager, and it's rubbish, okay? But the spark of creativity is definitely there, even if the actual execution is incredibly sloppy and poor, as you would expect for a sort of 13-year-old boy from 1983. But that's never left me throughout, and it's like anything, you can't suddenly wake up tomorrow and go, right, I shall be a brilliant writer, because it doesn't work like that. It's like anything, you can't be a brilliant, insert your skill, you know, the following day. You just can't do it. You have to practice. You have to work. You have to practice. There is no shortcut. Okay, you won't get better at it unless you put in the hours. Simple as that. But you know, the creativity certainly has to be there somewhere in you, driving you forward to make those stories. Glenn says, I think he's got a deal. That must be Gareth. I think he's got a deal to have some of his books made into a TV. I mean, that's, you know, that maybe that's a really good definition of success. I think I wouldn't mind having some of my stuff made into TV series. So that's good. I'm not a fan of Yamix, but he's an intelligent man. He is indeed, and I've met Yamix. Okay, so I always reserve my judgment of people's personality until I've actually sized them up in real life, because the screen puts an awful lot of barriers in the way, and I would always want to meet somebody in real life before judging. And I've met Yamix, and actually, he's all right. I don't necessarily agree with his style or some of the stuff he puts out, but he's as a bloke, he's all right. TV shows for Gareth, presumably live action, but it's got great anime vibes. Okay, well, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. I'm one of those, you know, in terms of TV adaptations of my stuff, I'm kind of like, on one hand, I'm like, yes, please, and on the other hand, I'm kind of like, really nervous about what they're going to do, or something like that. Because some TV adaptations are fabulous, and some TV adaptations are just awful. And it doesn't, I don't know, what I would be worried. I'd be very excited, but I would be worried in those sort of situations. I don't know. Difficult one. So just wanted to say thank you for your perspective on the No Man's Sky universe. They really have knocked No Man's Sky out of the park. They are really, really good. So that is a very exciting very exciting game, full of lore, full of adventure, full of every possible sci-fi trope you could think of. Really enjoying that. So yeah, we'll be doing some more of that. Ray Daily Writer says, "Oh, a writing stream. Hello." Well, hello to you, as Ray Daily. Good to see you. Thank you very much for popping on. So if you've got any questions or anecdotes or anything you want to just chuck into the chat, then please do. That's what it's all about. Truffle Shuffle Game. Do you think you could teach FDev how to write a compelling story for reading? Let's not go there, shall we? I knew somebody would ask that, or something like that. We'll do an Elite Dangerous stream at some point again. All right. I did want to do one straight away because they had their narrative roundtable thing last week, and I thought it was actually okay. I think they should have moderated it a bit more, and it wasn't really a narrative stream. It was sort of a theory crafting stream, but you know, better than nothing, right? So you know, props to them for doing that. Would I have done it differently? Yes. We'll do Elite Dangerous another day, okay? I promise. We'll come back and do that. Right. So JR Knight, Glenn said welcome to Ray Daily as well. So welcome again. Anybody hanging around in the doing that lurk thing, if you want to stay lurking, that's absolutely fine. Okay, there's no pressure to come forward and introduce yourself. But if you do want to say hello, say hello. That's cool. So JR1988, I have an author question. Marketing, please God, how? Yes. Okay, marketing is worthy of a stream all on its own, right? It's really, and I certainly haven't cracked it myself. It's incredibly hard. I think there's various things that you need to have nowadays, and I think things that I would probably regard as essential for an author nowadays is one, a website, B, social media feeds that you regularly update and interact with people on. And I don't mean buy my book, it's awesome. Okay, people won't follow a Twitter stream like that, right? Okay, you've got to have something else, you know. And you've got to kind of put yourself out there and join in with things, and you know, hang around on forums and comment on things, and it's a slow long burn. Okay, and bear in mind that there are a gazillion other people doing the same thing at the same time, all trying to do the same objective. So marketing is really hard. The things that I've done. I did run a blog for a long time, and blogs were pretty successful a decade ago, but they just seem to have completely fallen out of favour, and I think that's maybe a slight generational demographic shift, because people just consume stuff in video format these days. I mean, it's interesting to watch my kids who are now 18 and 21, nearly 18 and 21, and it's all Instagram, it's all TikTok, it's all YouTube. You know, they don't scroll down a blog. They just don't. Okay. Now, some of us older types probably say, "Well, I'm quite happy to read a blog. I'd love to read a blog," but and I do search out. I personally, I mean, and full disclosure, I am 51. Okay. I'm old, yeah. Generation X for the win. You know, I am. I will quite often search out. Why isn't there a damn text version of this article? I don't want to watch a video. I want to read something, and it's annoying to me when I find the thing I'm actually looking for, and it's like a 15-minute YouTube video, and I said, no, I want the blog version so I can read that and skim read that in 5 minutes. Okay, but I don't think I'm typical anymore. All right. This is the problem: is trying to aim your content at things. And one of the reasons I picked up, Twitch streaming and stuff is to hopefully reach and talk to a younger generation of science fiction and fantasy fans who, in the olden days would have corresponded with letters and writing into sci-fi anthology magazines. That's the really old school stuff from the 70s and 80s. Into the 90s, maybe bulletin boards and forums and blogs, and into the noughties. Whereas now it's different. Okay, things change. So marketing, website, social media, try a blog. It might work depending on what you're trying to do, but be active, be out there. Brand everything about you consistently so people can go, oh, that's so-and-so. I mean, my website is drewwager.com. Okay, hard to go wrong with that, really. And it's all about my books because that's the focus. Okay, so yeah, you need to scroll down on what you're actually focusing on. It is not easy though. It's not easy. Marketing is just a nightmare. Okay, and you've got to be a bit blowing your own trumpet. Again, I shouldn't really be using cliche. That's really bad. But you've got to find a line between going, well, I don't want to talk about myself too much, and hey, buy my book. Okay, and. And it's not easy, all right, because sometimes you're going to go too far in one direction or the other. It's difficult. Marketing is witchcraft, says Glenn. Winning 1974, recent creator roundtable for FDev wasn't much. They missed a trick there, turned it off after. I shan't comment. Dark magic, yes, dark magic. Okay. It's difficult. Asimov's foundation spent a decade in the doldrums due to poor publicity. It's difficult. I mean, yes. I mean, and this gets onto the whole business about, how do you get people to find out about your book? If you've done all the work of actually creating a book, let's put that aside for the moment and say that you've done it, right? You've created a book. That's no small thing. Getting it in front of people is hard work. Okay, how do they find out about you? Where do you announce it? There's not some great online place where you can have the entire world look at you for like 5 minutes and go, "Here's my book." That doesn't exist. So how do you get it in front of people? Well, I'm afraid you've just got to keep trying every single opportunity. Do you have a local book club? Are there magazines that cover your topics of interest? Can you write into them and talk about them? Can you get into your local radio? Can you get into your national radio? All of those things are possibilities. And your trouble is you're vying with lots of other people all of the time. To get those kind of things, because the one good thing about the internet is it has sort of democratized, shall I say, the idea of being able to get a book online. But the bad thing about the internet is it democratized the entire process of getting a book online, because there's now a gazillion other people out there trying to do the same thing. The only thing I've tried to do is be very specific in what I'm trying to achieve. So if you read a Drew Wager book, you are going to get a good old-fashioned adventure, memorable characters, space pew pew science fiction on one side or fantasy swords and sorcery on the other. There'll be a dash of romance in there. It won't be too heavy, it won't be too preachy. At the end you'll be going, "Hey, that was great." 4 or 5 hours or whatever it is that it takes you to read of escapism, fantastic Drew Wager book. That's my marketing spiel. Okay, so I'm not going to preach you, I'm not going to lecture at you. It's not going to be all that hard to read. You're going to know what you're going to get. The plot will hopefully twist around and all that sort of stuff, and you're going to remember the characters. That's what I do. That's my USP, I think the Americans call it, unique selling point. That's what I try and always do. What you do may be entirely different. You may be wanting to change the world. You may be wanting to make a point. You may be wanting to do lots of other things. But focus on what you're actually trying to achieve and be consistent. That I think helps. They are making Garrus work on TV. Excellent, brilliant. Okay. Osland 1973. What audiobook app can I actually find your audiobooks on? That would at the moment be Audible. So again, I'm sorry, it's part of the Amazon ecosystem. So audible.co.uk. Search for Drew Wakey, you'll find my stuff. Mad Myself. So, hang on. Ray Daily Writer. I recently joined SFWA as an associate member. Am I officially a writer now? I mean, am I a writer? This is a good question. Now, I am not a member of any writing associations at all. Okay. I am my highest academic qualification, and this may not it depends on where you are, Ray. I'm in the UK, so as you can probably tell from my accent, and the jaunty hat. I have, and I'm quite old, so my only qualification for writing and authoring and all that kind of good stuff is a C grade. I think it's C grade. Yeah, C grade, O level. In English literature, achieved at the heady age of 16 back in 1986. That is my only qualification. Okay, I am not a member of anything else. I don't have any, letters after my name or anything like that. I just have a love of storytelling, and that's seen me to where I am kind of today. Now, does that make me a writer? Well, I've written some books and I've had them published. Does that make me a writer? I've written some books and people have read them and left reviews. Does that make me a writer? Some people would say no. Some people would say, well, unless you've got a literary agent and you've gone through a well-respected publishing house, then you're not a writer. I say, what do I say? I say, tish, pashoo. Yeah, that's the old-fashioned stuff. Because I think if you've written something, my definition of being a writer is if you've written something and somebody else has gone, you know what, either I enjoyed that, or actually that upset me and made me cry, but it was really good, or that was just great, I enjoyed. Can we have some more of that, please? If your writing has, I think, been picked up by somebody else and they've found something in it of value, I think you're a writer. That would be my definition of it. So I don't hold any stock by whether you're traditionally published, whether you're self-published, whether you are independent bookstore published, whether you've sold 1 billion copies or sold 5 copies, any of that stuff. I think if your writing has made a difference to somebody else, count yourself a writer. I think that's me. That's my definition. Isn't Shadewood series a monopoly controlled by you? Yes, it is. That's a nice monopoly. Okay. I am a bit of a control freak, and that's. Yeah, most writers are. Most writers are actually control freaks, and they're also, egos covered in skin. I don't think that's being unfair to those of us who are writers, because we like to talk about ourselves because we're writers. Because what more exciting topic could there be? Right, Nimdosky. I've read a lot of random books on Kindle that I probably wouldn't have picked up in a bookshop. Well, I think that's the thing. Is that barrier of entry is much lower. I've definitely read things on Kindle I probably wouldn't have picked up otherwise, but it was like 99p or something like that on offer, and I think, well, I'll give it a whirl. And I've discovered something. I've discovered some stuff that's absolutely dreadful, but I've discovered a few bits and pieces where I thought this is really good, and I've enjoyed it and wanted more. So, you've got to try it, I think. Jian here. I guess the good thing about books is that they're evergreen for the most part. Doesn't matter if it was published, you can find success in time. It can, and I think it is a bit of an older's game as well. If you go into writing with the expectation, I am going to write a brilliant bestseller first time out, the chances of that happening, I think, are vanishingly small. It's not impossible. People do it, but I think I think the stars have to align and the gravitational fields have to be perfect, and those sort of things. It's just vanishingly unlikely, unless you are super talented and super lucky. And I think you need to have both. And an awful lot of established authors, inside fact number one. Okay, it's 80% luck. All right, it is 80% luck. Okay, you've got to be in the right place at the right time with the right thing. and that gets you through some of those gates. If you look at, there's a graph on a number of websites. If you look at the number of authors and how much money they make, it starts off. I'm doing this wrong way because my math. Which way around it's going to appear on your screen? Sorry. It starts off with how many things, and it's basically until you get to like the 98th percentile, which is presumably over here somewhere, then it suddenly shoots up in terms of earnings and so on, and brand recognition. The number of authors who are brand name, i.e., your granny will have heard of them, is very, very small compared to the number of people who actually are publishing books. And it's a very curious kind of industry. So the expectation that you can come in from a standing start, your debut novel will be a bestseller and you'll be a brand name by the end of the year, very unlikely. Okay, now the best thing to do, of course, is to keep at it. And the more books you write, the more stuff you get out there, the more likely it is that you're going to get picked up for whatever reason. It is a bit of a numbers game. You've got to keep on doing it. So there is no easy solution to that other than keep on doing it, I think. That's my sort of solution on that. So there we go. You need to have shameless self-promotion. I think you do. I think you've got to be a little bit larger than life, which for people like me, and you may find this hard to believe because I've kind of trained myself to do it. I am actually extremely introverted by nature, and a lot of writers are because we like our own company and the company of our characters who we can kind of control. And an awful lot of writers are introverted, which is exactly not the sort of person you need to push yourself out there, be larger than life and get out and do things. It can be very hard to do that, and acknowledge that is a difficulty and have a look at what you can do to help it. So that's quite difficult. So there we go. I'm giving Kindle Unlimited a go from Grave of the Gods. Okay, it allows for special offer as well. So I think it's worth a try. I mean, and if you've got multiple books in your catalogue, you can try different things and see what works. I mean, experiment. There's no right answer to these things. Pricey Boy 2009 says, keep doing what you're doing, mate. Amazing. Hello from Sydney. Hello from Sydney. Yay. Welcome to Sydney. It must be, what time is it there? Like 4 o'clock in the morning or something crazy. There we go. So that's brilliant. Right, onwards we go. If you want to get paid more often than Amazon, I highly recommend Smashwords. Yeah, so Smashwords is good as well. Smashwords is probably the rest of the market. Smashwords also allows you to take your ebook and it pushes it out to all sorts of other places as well. So I think the Apple Store can be populated by them. Barnes and Noble and all sorts of other places can be published by Smashwords. Those are really, really good. So those are things that are definitely worth trying. There are lots of outlets, and the problem is you can spend an awful lot of time trawling around different websites, trying to figure out which are the best routes. And you also need to convert your ebook so it matches up to the various different publishing standards that all the different sites have, and that can take a bit of time as well. So don't underestimate the actual getting your book into a publishable state for all the different websites that can accept it. That's a big task in itself as well. So that's quite good. Just trying to catch up with the chat. So have you read Contact with Christopher Nuttall's work? He does sci-fi and fantasy, currently reading his Cat Falcon series. I haven't got another one to this. Right, I'm making notes. That's really good. Glenn, I can be a really brilliant couch potato without too much work. I think most of us are pretty easy excelling at that one. Pricey Boy 2009, that's a good question. How do you concentrate when you're writing a book? You have to be brutal with yourself, okay? It is so easy to get distracted. Distractinated. I've just invented the word. Distractinated. Don't get distractinated. Basically what I do is I write, wherever possible, I write in the morning, okay? I find personally my brain is far more creative shortly after morning coffee usually. But up until about lunchtime, and that may be a slight middle-aged thing creeping in, because after lunchtime I'm not all that creative. In fact, I'm very, very sleepy a lot of the time. I have been known to fall asleep in front of the telly after lunch. So I do my creative stuff in the morning, and I set aside basically. I have a coffee. I have kind of a strict routine. I have to have a coffee to start with, okay. But I'm not allowed my second one, which may be a coffee, maybe a cup of tea, and a biscuit, until I've written what I feel is a worthwhile amount of stuff. Okay, and it doesn't always have to be writing. It could be creating and video editing and stuff. But I have to do something to earn my second drink. That's the sort of mentality that's going on. And I switch off the browser. Because it's so easy just to quickly go on Twitter and just sort of see what everyone's doing, or go on Facebook and just see what everyone's doing. It just wastes time. You can easily lose 10 minutes, 20 minutes if you've got social media popped up. So no social media in the mornings is my rule. I have the Word document on the monitor, and sometimes I put a little bit of classical music on because I find the classical music will help with the mood, and I focus on that. But I generally manage about 2 to 3 hours of what I would call kind of focused creative output. That kind of is it for the day for me. I can't do any more than that. I used to be able to do more, but I can't do it anymore. So the afternoon will usually be going back, editing something I've already created and tweaking it to make it better, because that seems to me, for me, lower mental effort than the creative stuff. I love doing the creative stuff, but it is quite draining, particularly if you're doing a heavy emotional scene, or you're writing something complicated and you're trying to get the plot nuances right and all that kind of thing. It's brain work, and it does tire you out. Whereas editing is kind of like, do I need that? Do I need this? And there's a spelling mistake. I put an extra comma in. That stuff is lighter on the brain. I find I can do that in the afternoon. So that's how I tend to do it. I do feel that most writers would benefit from a bit of a regime. Okay, because it's very easy to kind of get, there's a thing going and a thing going, and then, so I do close the door, and I do try and ignore the doorbell. It doesn't always work because depending on who else is in the house. But minimising distractions is a top tip. Okay, there I go again. Minimisation is what you need. Minimising distractions is definitely a good thing. Okay. Commander Terra Firma says, Glenn says, question, what is your most useful tool or trick? Sorry, the chat is drifting off the screen and I'm not catching up with it, so I'll do my best. Question, what is your most useful tool or trick for planning a plot or character arc? Do you use any kinds of prompts or tools? I don't use tools. I'm quite old-fashioned with the tools I use. I still use a Word 2010. Because it's installed on my computer, and I'm not doing this cloud thing. All right, I'm not doing this cloud thing because I'm old-fashioned and I don't like it. So I have an old word processor, Word 2010. Nothing fancy, nothing specific. I have tried. Before somebody says, "What about Scrivener?" I have tried all of these newfangled things. Okay, and they're very clever. But I just can't use them. I'm sorry. I find I know how to use Word, and I just copy and paste things up and down. It works for me. Okay, it may not work for you. Okay, so if you like Scrivener and things like that, go for it. I find they just overcomplicate my brain, and I'm trying to use the tool more than I'm trying to create, and that's probably me being simple and stupid. But I just like an old-fashioned word processor. So that's what I do. Planning a plot or character arc. So I am, there are plotters and there are pansters. Okay, I'm a plotter. I like to plot all, to the nth degree of what's going on in my story. So I try my hardest to plot the entire story out and work out the plot holes as I'm going through the plot, not when I'm writing the story. So that's my technique. If, from a character, I might say, okay, well, I want this person to end up as the king of the realm. Okay, that's their ultimate destination. But along the way, I want them to go through doubt, and I want them to go through uncertainty, and I want them to go through disappointment, and I want them to go through, insecurity, and I want them to have, ups and downs and various things. And I will plot those out. What are the things I want to happen to this character? And then I'll work back through from, right, they end up as a king, where do they start? And it could be the classic pauper to prince type thing. They're a vagabond at the start and they end up a king at the end. I mean, that's a bit cliche, but that's a valid character development. Or it might be something a bit more sophisticated where they start, as a good person, generally, reasonably okay, and then something bad and nasty and psychological happens to them, and actually their psyche gets damaged and they come out bitter and twisted at the end. But I will plot the kind of points, I suppose. What are the key events that happens to that person and why, and what does it do to them? I'll plot those out in a little list and then use that to develop the character. But it's just a Word document, okay, with words in it. Nothing too clever. That's how I do it. Stefan curious, have you thought about getting in touch with Hello Games to do some writing? I haven't, and I don't think they need somebody like me. I mean, the No Man's Sky game is full of all sorts of storytelling and stuff, and it's so what's the word to describe No Man's Sky? I mean, it's so full of quite. I'm just trying to find the right word. It's kind of not my style of writing. It's I am a person who likes big, memorable character driven storylines, and I don't think that's really what No Man's Sky is. So I admire it, and I think it's great, but I don't think I'm the right sort of person to write things for it. I would certainly potentially document some of the lore in it, but not creatively. I don't think, unless you could tell me otherwise. Wolf from Al just subscribed. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. But Drew, apparently you've quit Elite. Have I? Okay. I thought I was taking a leave of absence while they fixed the game. That's what I intended. Who said I've quit? Dear. Never mind. People do like to read. Well, people like their own narrative, shall we put it like that? There we go. Ray says, I share my daily submission rejection stats on my Twitter feed. Oh wow, okay, I'm going to have to check that out, Ray. Actually, dump your Twitter handle into the chat. That would be good for other people to be able to watch that. My daily submission rejection stats on my Twitter feed, so people can see the good and bad of being a jobbing short form writer. This is also my Twitter handle. Oh, it is your Twitter handle. Okay, brilliant. Okay, I'll check that out, because that's interesting. So so this whole submission and rejection. I mean, if you're going to go for the route of traditional publishing and try and either bag yourself direct with a publisher or bag yourself an agent, be prepared for huge amounts of rejection. Okay, the odds are literally stacked against you for that approach, and it may not be the fastest way to market for you. If again, now you may be lucky. Some people are, and get through to an agent very, very quickly and find a connection there. But it's difficult. It is difficult, and the likelihood is relatively low. So bear that in mind. But it's an interesting thing. I'd like to know, actually, Ray, if you've got any a very, very short, rough submission and rejection ratio. I think that would be quite interesting to know. So good. Pricey Boy 2000 subscribers. Well, thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. Kelly Buglow too long didn't read. What was that to do with? Blogs have been replaced by microblogging sites. I think that's very true. 00311. Hello there, Drew. Hey there, chat. Hope everyone's having a great day so far. What are we up to today? We are just generally chatting, okay? Just chilling out about writing, so that's cool. It's definitely a generational thing, says Kezinik. I think it is. I mean, this is something that I've noticed with audiobooks as well. So, very small stats thing is, when I started writing, it was all about paperbacks. Okay, so this would be 15 years ago now. Paperback. Everyone wanted the paperback. Ebooks were ebooks. Ebooks. No, we don't do ebooks there. Paperbacks, yes, maybe hardbacks. For the well-heeled. And then about 5 years after that, so say 10 years ago. Oh wow, ebooks is where it's at, and that's still very much the case. But nowadays, the thing that's really showed up for me in the last 2-3 years is audio. Okay, converting your book to an audio format so people can listen to it when they're on the move. Huge, massive increase in interest and demand. So I've noticed my paperback revenues dropping off quite noticeably. Ebook has replaced them very fast and is now, holding steady. Whereas audio, massive new interest. My sales personally of my audio stuff are, from a revenue perspective, are almost the same as my ebooks, believe it or not. So for me, it's, from a purely financial perspective, ebooks and audio is where it's at, not paperbacks. Okay, however, I completely get that some people say, I've got to have a paperback book, right? And I get that, because I personally feel the same way. But that's not where people, in my experience at least, based on my sales figures, for science fiction and fantasy, that's not where the money is. Okay, people want ebooks and they want audio. That's that's where they are, and that might be a generational thing again. More people consuming stuff on the move because they're moving around, they're in their car, they're commuting, they're hiking up a mountain. I don't know, and they want to listen to a story while they're doing things. I notice this in the mornings when I go on a dog walk, and I've got an old Labrador. It's literally is on its last legs, and I take it for a morning walk or a morning morning amble, as that's about all it can manage now. Poor dear. And I go out without headphones on. I don't take a mobile phone with you. I take the dog. I'm going for a dog walk. That's how my generation did it, right? Whereas everybody else around me, whether they're walking a dog or whether they're walking to work or whether they're running or whether they are doing anything out and about in the morning when I'm walking the dog, they have headsets on. Everybody virtually without exception, and some of those people are listening to audiobooks. So there you go. It just is. Ray, I will follow you on Twitter after this when I get through. Chris Viking, it happens to me too. I see a headline, go check it because it seems interesting, and I find it's not an article but a video, and sometimes I just can't be asked. Yeah, so I think the chat's a little bit now, but I need to kind of catch up, be a bit faster. Sorry. And supporting each other. Thank you, Ray and Glenn, their Commentary, for following each other. That is what it's all about. Fellow of the Crow, I can definitely relate. I'd rather skim through an article to find out what's interesting than waiting 10 minutes. The problem with videos is a lot of them take an awful long time to get to the point, don't they? So I've got to listen to 3 minutes of, well, good morning, everybody. It's like, no. Am I aware of Greg Buchanan? Yes, I've heard of him. Yes, so he's the writer of the Enemies Atlas storyline plus the other bits and pieces. Okay, so Shiny Reflect, thanks for that. I will check him out. I didn't know he had written a book as well. I'll persuade Emma Raducanu to endorse the work. Yeah, that's definitely the flavour of the moment, isn't it? I mentioned this on my Twitter feed, but didn't get an opportunity to say here. I've managed to get my local library to request a presence for a talk about my books for their literary festival in November. I don't have a firm date, but I'm well. Nice one, JR98. That's the thing. So get involved. If there is a local thing that you can support, do it, because you can get involved with it. So that's good. Commander Gon says memorable persecuted characters. People are not forgiving me on my stream for one of my characters suffering all sorts of nasty things in one of my books. Sorry about that. So that's good. Ray Daily Writer, you've done a Lords of Midnight book having an 80s flashbacks in it. Yes, so I wrote the official novelisation for Lords of Midnight, so very, very quickly on that one. Mike Singleton wrote the original game in '84. Sadly, he died back in 2012, I think it was. Or was it later than that? I'm just trying to remember. Anyway, he certainly died relatively recently. Before he did that, he had passed the law and the kind of IP custodianship to a chap by the name of Chris Wilde, who's now looking after Lords of Midnight and all the things associated with it. And a chance conversation on Twitter between me and Chris led to me writing the officially endorsed book, Lords of Midnight, based on the game. And I'm literally, well, not as we speak because I put it away now because I'm doing this, but I'm actually working on the sequel, Doomdark's Revenge, right this minute. We're at the later stages of editing on that, and that hopefully will be coming out in time for Christmas, is the plan. So there we go. Fingers crossed. And the 80s, yes, the good times, and we're the same age. Well, that's good to know, Ray. So we've got lots of things in common. Fantastic. A writer writes, an author auths, says Joan. Excellent. Right, let's do so we can catch up with some more questions. Right, let's go down. Any ideas when Shadewood Book 4 will be available on audio? It's with the publisher right now. They are doing QA checks, so I think it will be a matter of weeks. Hopefully not more than a month or two at most. That would be my plan. I can't do anything more with it now. I've submitted everything, so I will keep you posted. And when I know more, when I get a provisional kind of launch date for it, I will let you know. Aren't you the head of the Order of Raxler? That qualifies. Yes, maybe I am. Yeah. So that's good. Kelly Baglar says, I've paid real money to buy your books. Oh, this is the am I a writer discussion. Okay, I've paid real money to buy your books. That makes you a writer. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kelly Baglar. I appreciate that. That's really good. Wintermute, please stop saying you're old because I'm older than you are. Sorry, Wintermute. Do apologise. Blue Ganymede, I'm a bit late. Have we finished the waffling yet, or have I missed something important? I don't know. I mean, everybody else in the chat can tell you. That would be good. Says Drew Wager with no qualifications behind Tish and Pish. Yes, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Right, I'm just trying to catch up with the. Where are we? JL98, especially when it comes to sci-fi authors, the only ones of those who are in my local library are Ian M. Banks, Peter Hamilton, and me. That's all right. That's pretty good. Given my granny passed away more than 40 years ago, that's a lot more right as well. Yeah. Right, Glenn's come up with a question. Hang on. Right, Drew Egger, question: what is your use of tool? Oh, wait, I've answered that one. Did that come up twice? Sorry, Glenn. I think I have answered that one, so that's good. The introvert gang. Everybody who's an introvert, don't say anything because we don't like it. We like the company of the characters we can control, proving your earlier remark about writers being control freaks. Yeah, so I do think that is very, very true. And Julia Kerman, hello. Good to see you, Julia. Sorry, the chat has been very long delayed, so I do apologise that. I'm desperately trying to catch up with them. I'm not very good at staying on topic, as you may have noted. So if I've missed anybody who said hello for the first time, I do apologise because the chat does move quite quick. But it's lovely to see you. So lovely to see you as well, Julia. Rob's 2,600 and. Rob's 2610. I'm going to go for 2610. Slightly off track. Are you taking suggestions for your streams that you can ignore? I'd be interested in your fellow writers' thoughts on super weapons in sci-fi, valuable storytelling. I will add super weapons. I think we may have done that once before, but it's probably quite a long time ago. Let's do super weapons in sci-fi again in the future. I think that would be quite good fun. Introverts write books, extroverts me write adverts, says Commander. That's interesting. I mean, that's an interesting question as to whether or not more introverts are writers. I don't know. I mean, maybe they are. That's quite a good question. I guess I'm miles behind the chat. You're not talking about Office 365 here. I need to, it's a scroll down. Lobster Love likes my hat. Thank you very much. Ray Daly says, I agree with having a routine. I write once per week for about 1 to 2 hours. I have a pile of outlines, pick one, write it. I use Notepad to write it and then format on OpenOffice because it's free. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with OpenOffice, actually. I've used it in the past. I just have more familiarity of Word, I suppose. So that's quite good. A Pricey Boy 2099 has gifted some tier 1 subs. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do appreciate that. That's really nice. I'm short for a writer trying to break the pro magazines and sites. Best yet is daily science fiction. Okay, so there's lots and lots of ways to promote your stuff and various different ways to do it, and they're all valid. It's worth trying them all. Oslo 1973, damn good writer catching a break is like winning the lottery. It is, and I think you've got to be realistic that it's a game of luck. Okay, you can be the best writer with the best ideas and the best characterization and the best plot, and you just get missed. Okay, and you've got to develop a bit of a thick skin as a writer, that if you get a bunch of rejections or you just get kind of nothing back for quite a long time, people just for whatever reason aren't picking up your book, or they're not leaving reviews, or they're not interacting with it, or whatever it happens to be, it doesn't necessarily mean your book is bad. Okay, it just may mean that some things adrift in terms of the connection, and whether that's the cover, the blurb, the social media profile, just plain bad luck, really quite difficult to work out. So there we go. Kelly Baglass says the too long didn't read referred to when you were talking about the demise of the written blog, but it's too far back. So I got to catch up with the chat. So I think I'm making headway. I'm getting the scrolly bar is getting close to the bottom, so I'll do the best. Julia says you have a wonderful voice and style for audiobooks. Oh, thank you very much, Julia. That's a really nice thing to say. I do appreciate it. I do like the audiobook stuff because I mean you can't see it because it's up there, but I usually stand in front of the microphone and I act, lovelies. I do. I act. It's it is quite good fun. It does appeal to the egotistical part of my, I'm an actor now. I'm standing on the stage doing these lines, and I enjoy that. I think this is one of the things that I think is very, very important. That if you're going to do any kind of creative thing, if it becomes a slog, people are going to notice. All right, people are going to notice if you're not pushing hard. A good example of this. I think, this is anecdotal, but I think it's true. Ready Player One, okay? First book, really, really good. Original idea, nicely executed, lots of 80s stuff in it, fun plots, bit derivative maybe, but, really, really good sort of adventure-y, science fiction-y, computer gamey, 80s nostalgia trip. Fantastic. I loved it. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the film. Okay, Ready Player Two was rubbish. It just smacked of, I'm just going to write a sequel because I can, and it didn't have any pizzazz to it. I didn't think so. I mean, your opinion is maybe different. That's to me an example of, I just had to get up and write this. Okay. And it didn't have any passion in it. And I think if you haven't got any passion for the thing you're doing, I think you've got to ask yourself, why the hell are you doing it? Because it will come across in your work that the passion isn't there. So there we go. Nim Duscrin, audio makes the rail replacement bus journey go by faster. That's what it's for, isn't it? Yes. Glenn says, I'm sad to see the demise of paperbacks and love the physical books, but yeah, I think it's a generational thing. I just think the demographics of how we consume media keeps changing, and it always will change. Stefan, I have to say audiobooks definitely help for attention disorders. Okay, personally I have ADHD, so reading a physical book can be overwhelming sometimes, and I have to constantly go back because I miss things. Audiobooks help with that a lot. I can get that actually. My eldest son is dyslexic, and he finds reading a physical challenge as a result. But audiobooks, access those, and he absolutely adores things like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, I can quote it quite well, but he can quote it better than me, and that's because of the audiobook versions. So have you read a book? No, I've listened to the audio version. I don't think that's any different. The experience will be a bit different, because I think any change in the media changes the story a little bit, but I think it's a totally valid way to consume a book, by listening to it, particularly if, the way I do it, the author who wrote the book reads the book. If the author has a voice for radio, and obviously a face for radio too, and enjoys the process of creating an audiobook and has a voice for it, I think that's probably the best way of doing an audiobook, because the author is putting across the way they want it read. And I've had some of my audiobooks done by other people, and they do a fantastic job, but it isn't quite how I would have done it, and it hasn't perhaps got some of the nuances that I would have put in. But in some ways they've excelled because voice actors, right? Really, really good. But so if you can do your own audiobooks, I think that's a good thing to do. If you're up to it. Some people are, some people aren't. Some people, just scare the willies out of them. They'd be terrified of standing in front of the mic. Some of us don't really mind. So there we go. Maybe all those walkers of headrooms listen to Shanewood audiobooks. It can be hoped. Twiggy, very interested in audiobooks, especially from Drew, because I like to hear his enthusiasm, emphasis you want. So that's exactly it. I think if you're creating something, you must have the passion for it. You must be, I want to make this good. I want to make this the best. I'm currently in the process of editing Doomdark's Revenge, and it's taken me ages, because every time I read through it, I go, I need to tweak that. That isn't quite right. There's not quite enough of this in it. I need to address that little bit of magic, fix that. And, editing is a long old slog to get right, and I'm still in the midst of it. But I don't want to release it until I feel it's the right amount of quality and the right amount of good stuff in it. So that's, it's important, all that kind of thing. Chris says, waiting for the last audiobook so I can buy it. It won't be long, promise. I had to kind of slow down listening to the books because I've only have a little left of the second Shanewood book, and I'm not sure how long it'll last me when the final will come out. So I'm hoping a month or two, Chris. There we go. Talking about videos, Jenna Morrisai, all her videos take about 4 minutes to get to the topic sponsorship, my book. Yeah, so I think video, you've got to be a bit, and I've bumped into this with my videos because to start with, I just put them on YouTube and press the go button, and then that's not the best way to do it, trust me. You do have to do some editing. And then YouTube will basically try, if you try and monetize your YouTube videos, YouTube will stick adverts in absolutely every like 30 seconds or something. It's ridiculous the amount of adverts they put in. So you have to go back, and I pull out about 2/3 of the adverts that YouTube tries to put into my videos, and then I feel it's got about, something that's not going to be outrageously irritating to watch, because otherwise it's just horrible. So yeah, there's an absolute balance there. And if your video has got the awful like and subscribe, and a word from my sponsor and all that sort of stuff, and click here and press the bell icon and all that kind of crap. Seriously think about whether you need any of that stuff, and whether or not just putting the content out there is better. I'm not sure what the answer is, but a lot of videos feel too much like they're trying to turn it into a monetization route rather than actually trying to impart useful information, if that makes sense. And then there's things like Commander Collins just chucked it in the live chat, Patreon things. I haven't done that because I just can't be bothered, because you can spend an awful lot of time fiddling around with all these funding sources and things, and actually at the end of the day what you should be spending your time doing is being creative and writing some stuff. So it's very easy to get sucked in. Right, I'm just going to tweak the website and my Twitter profile and my Facebook profile and my Instagram profile, my TikTok profile, my YouTube profile, my Patreon links, and then my like and subscribe shortcut videos, and then I need to go look for some sponsors. And have you actually written a book this year? Oh, I forgot. So make sure you're not procrastinating. Anyway, there we go. Right, so audiobooks are wonderful. I have 46 hours worth of unabridged Lord of the Rings. Yeah, so I've got something similar like that. Twiggy, I can only imagine Drew reading the book with total enthusiasm, putting the characters on stage where they feel love. So I have tried that. So if you listen to audiobooks, that's certainly what I've attempted to do. Right, so Ray's got some stats here. Subbed 356, 297 rejected, and 17 sales, 14 announced, 3 on hold. So that gives me, what's that? That is about 5% ish. Wow. Okay. So I'm not quite sure exactly what the maths is. But yeah, 5% success rate. And that I don't think that's atypical. So thank you very much for Ray. That's really, really good. I'll be in an anthology with William F. Nolan, Logan's Run. Wow. Okay. Sanctuary. Bruce Holland Rogers, Nibbler Win Lakes. Wow. Okay. So so there you go. Brand name recognition and getting alongside other authors is definitely a route forward. That's really, really good. So that's quite good. Mad Monk said, has he tried to fool us this time by having no actual topic? So this is more sort of an open format, just chuck questions in the chat and we'll talk about them, which is working quite well actually, because I've got more chat and I can't keep up with it. Which is good. And now people are putting ha 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 lol and lol in the stream, and I don't know what they were laughing at. Pricey Boy says, your voice is like a velvet milkshake, soothing. Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind. I do like that. My favourite voice actually on the internet is a Twitch streamer called Cat's Purr. So if you find her, she's really, really good. Got a lovely voice. But I'm pleased my voice is like a milkshake. That's not bad. Right. Let's go back and think. CD. Now you're talking about CDs and tapes. Cassettes. I love cassettes. Actually, I've got a reel-to-reel tape player. That's even older. At 61, says Commander O'Connor, I get told by my friends' kids to digitise and put them on my phone. Kezinik, I have a question. If you have an idea rejected, do you keep on working on the same idea to refine it or abandon it for something different? That's a good question. I think, to start with, I would try lots and lots of different places. Based on what Ray has told us there, you've got a 5% success rate, and I assume, I haven't read any of Ray's stuff, but I've got no reason to assume his stuff isn't really, really good, because some of his stuff is getting accepted, okay? But what Ray's showing us there is you've probably got, let's assume you've got a good story, okay, you've probably still only got a 5% hit rate chance. Okay, so if you submit once, the chances of you being in that 5% are really, really low. If you submit 20 times, one of those submissions based on raised stats is likely to succeed. See where I'm going with that? You've got to have faith in your idea, okay? Because it's probably good, all right? But even if it is brilliant, you've got a 1 in 20 chance of pushing it through. That's the odds, I'm afraid, you're up against, just in general terms, okay? So believe in what you've done. Also, don't let the academics tell you off for not being in the right genre. Okay, so My Shadeward Saga is a science fiction story that reads like a fantasy. Okay, now that is a problem for an awful lot of publishers and agents, because they basically say, no, you can't do that. Okay, you've got to write within established genre guidelines. In fact, I was reading just today an agent whose website basically says, before you submit your book, tell me of 2 or 3 other writers in your genre who you would compare yourself with, because this will prove to me that you know your genre and you know your science fiction audience, or whatever it was. And I was like, well, I'm not submitting to you then. Because that is the stupidest piece of advice I've ever heard in my life. And because books should break genres, okay? Don't let somebody tell you must be a science fiction, or you must write wizards, or you must write something that exists the same as something else. Where is the creativity in writing something that is already been done? What a really, really bad piece of advice. Don't do that. If you want your idea, whatever your idea is, develop it, make it good. Bounce it off a few other people to make sure you've got a pretty good objective view as to whether or not it actually is genuinely good or not. Don't delude yourself, but believe in the thing that you've created. Very, very important. Believe in the thing that you've created. Right, see, Wagar's wonderful headwear. Hat's a speciality. Pricey Boy says, I'm 43 and I feel privileged growing up with cassettes. I like cassettes. Cassettes are good. But there we go. Glenn, what do we sound like morons? So this is back to audiobook stuff. Okay, so people still want to hear the author read. No, you have to have a voice for it, I think. Okay, you have to be a bit of an actor. Okay, I think if you read something quite bland with no inflection, just because you're the author, that's not going to work. Okay, an audiobook has to be it's not a play, and it's not a TV series, and it's not a radio drama, but it is something. It's like listening to a good presenter on a topic. If somebody just reads off a PowerPoint slide and goes, point A is this, and point B is this, and point C is that, you're instantly asleep, right? Whereas if you've got a PowerPoint presenter who goes, right, well, point A, now this I really do want to draw your attention to, because this is probably the nub of my presentation. Points B and C, we'll get to them. There's a difference, right? So you need to be able to project your emotional state. You need to be able to project your enthusiasm. You need to be able to project the emotion of what you've got in your story in your voice and push it to the listener. I think that stuff is really, really important. So there we go. Rocky Star 27, ebooks really improve my veracity for reading, but I can't get on with audiobooks. I can only listen to natural conversation. So there you go. You see, different people, different preferences. And I think, but I would definitely recommend to anybody who's looking at making a book that you consider ebooks and audiobooks if you can, because it's a way to capture more people. So there we go. Chris Viking, well, I think there are times when the narration is so bad it partly ruins the book, even if the book is good. I went through a sequel series from an author I love, and most of the series were read by 2 people who were good, and one of which did the audiobook for the old series. And one book, I think the 4th book out of 5, had a terrible narrator, and she made what was supposed to be a pleasure into something almost painful. So yes, the narrator that you choose can make or break the book. I think that's, I would agree with that. That definitely does. Simply asking to subscribe to a YouTube channel is not something I like. No, do get fed up with the like and subscribe, click the bell icon, and you won't miss another upload. So, well, I won't miss another upload anyway because I've got the search button. So there we go. So there we go. I'll say straight off the bat, Drew, you're a generally interesting person to talk to. Oh, thank you very much, Pricey. I do appreciate that. So, yeah, and although I do get distracted, I'm a bit squirrely, okay? I'm a bit squirrel-like. Wintermute, I think I can count on one hand the number of content creators who do not monetize their videos and who state they are not doing it for financial gain. No, I think, you've got to be kind of honest with this sort of thing. I do monetize mine, and I kind of use it to sort of pay its way, so it doesn't influence or muck up anything else, because otherwise I'd have to buy things and do things, and it would have to come out of money that would ideally be used for something else, like the house, food on the table, and running the car, and a new kitchen, those sort of things. So I kind of cycle the money from my Twitch and YouTube back into the whole Twitch and YouTube thing, trying to make it better. That's kind of how I look at it. Trying to find interesting things to talk about. Right, anyway, so J19, publishers love genres because they invented them by and large. Agents love genres because they get the sales by getting authors published with the publisher who's invented the genres. There's some truth in that. It is a self-serving industry, because if something is successful, then everybody wants in on that thing. Okay, so we've seen that with it used to be vampires, right? Everything was about vampires in the 90s, and then Harry Potter came along, and everything was about boy wizards for a while. And in the science fiction world, everything went gritty, tough, and dark for a while, and we're still kind of recovering from that, and kind of super realistic, and everybody piled in on that, writers are better than that. We can be more creative, and the democratization, I've said this before, the democratization of the ability to get stuff out there does allow you to publish things that don't match with those genre guidelines and stuff. So I definitely encourage you to write your story. Don't listen to somebody else's shackles in terms of genre and all that kind of stuff. So worrying too much about genre would deprive us of so many good stories. Exactly, Kelly Bugler hit it exactly on the point. Because certain things just wouldn't get written, and so many good novels were rejected early on. So most famous authors that you can name had loads of rejections before they got lucky. Okay, and big names all across all the genres got rejected early on because it wasn't suitable, it's not the right thing, market won't sustain it, all that kind of stuff. Have faith in your work. If you put the effort in and in your heart of heart, and you've gone through the process of being objective about it, i.e. getting other people to critique it honestly, and you're confident it's good, go for it, believe in it, very important. Drew Wager, you were talking about bouncing an idea of others to see if you have a good creative idea. Do you mean before we write it or after? I think your creative idea is yours. I would be wary of bouncing my creative idea off somebody, not because they'd pinch it, but I don't think you need to. It's an idea. Once you've turned it into a tale or a story or whatever it happens to be, then I think you've got something that's you can argue about a little bit. Then I think that's the time to start seeking creative input. But your creative idea, the seed of whatever it is you're trying to write for, that's yours. That's your crown jewels. I would keep that. I would keep that secret. Julia, my favourite books growing up were the Dragon Riders of Pern. Yay! Which is also sci-fi that reads like fantasy. I think genre bending is cool. Well, they are some of my favourite books, Julia. My absolute favourite character in all of literature comes from those books. Lesser, obviously Dragon Lady from the first book, Lesser. And I just adored her character. She is the inspiration for many of my characters, actually. And to be honest, Anne McCaffrey's style of writing is something I have worked very hard to. Well, not emulate. I think that's the wrong phrase. I just found her very inspiring. I liked what she did, and what I've done is very much inspired by Dragon Riders of Pern and stuff. I just love that stuff. So really, really good. Jonathan, I've heard a lot of people compare Drew's writing to Anne McCaffrey. There we go. Thank you very much. So if you like Anne McCaffrey, I think you'll like my stuff because it's character based driven. It's people relationships in fantastic, amazing, cool environments, but still people doing their thing. So there we go. Ray says, totally agree with you breaking out of genres. 3 years I was a sci-fi guy, then I sold a horror story, the following year I sold a fantasy story and was published in all 3 genres. Fantastic, well done. I've broken lit-fic and non-fic. Write what you want, don't let anybody else dictate your style. No, I think that's very, very true, and I would absolutely 100% subscribe to that. If you've got something, stick with it. It's your idea, but you're going to have to work at it, you're going to have to push at it, and hopefully you'll get lucky. So just keep doing it. When narrating an audiobook, you have to be a bard. I think there's something to that. You do have to have that performance flair to a degree. Now, you could tell me whether or not I've got that or not, but you've got to have some pizzazz in front of a microphone. Okay, you've got to be able to project your voice and put in the emotion. It's got to be there. Okay, you've got to do that. You've got to be able to do. That was probably really dreadful. You've got to be able to do that sort of thing and be comfortable doing that in front of a microphone. Okay, because you've got to get alongside the characters and go, yeah, what are you doing? Don't press that button. Don't pull that lever. No, stop. You've got to be able to do all that sort of stuff and get that emotion into the story. So that's that's stuff to do. If you want to narrate your own book and would like some points on how to tell a story well, you should come up here and visit the Orkney Storytelling Festival. Wow, okay, well that sounds like a fantastic thing. Some of those live things are really fun to watch, actually, because they are some absolutely fabulous people at those sort of storytelling things. That would freak me out because I don't think I'm quite happy doing it in front of a microphone where I can go, oops, I made a mistake. I'll go back and edit that. To do it live with the possibility of mistakes, that's a different level of excitement, that is. So there we go. Thank you for the follow, Arhelios, and Pricey Boy is gifting all sorts of things. Thank you very much for the gifty things. I have to say I've been a Twitch streamer for quite a long time, and I've failed my way upwards on Twitch to becoming a partner, and I still don't know how anything works. So a lot of this stuff that people do in the screen, I'm very grateful for, because I'm sure it's really, really good, but I don't understand how a lot of it works. That's a terrible division. There we go. Never mind. Winterview. I remember being told by a well-known sci-fi author in the 90s he wouldn't narrate another audiobook version of his novels again because he didn't enjoy the experience. Well, that's interesting. I think you've got to enjoy it. And to be honest, if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? I mean, come on, life's too short. I write books because I love writing books, and I create audiobooks because I love creating audiobooks. And I do Twitch streaming and YouTube stuff because I like it, and it's fun, and it's good to talk to people and interact with stuff. And I go to conventions because that's quite a laugh as well. I'm writing books, but I really don't enjoy it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So there we go. Fabulous. Chris fucking agrees. Right. Okay, this is back to the ideas. The idea I'd never really bounce off anyone. Someone I might talk about the idea, but I wouldn't seek their opinion whether or not I should do it. No, I think that's your call as the creative person. I do that. As for what is expected, I remember trying to break stereotypes when I was a teenager, says Chris Viking. I had a terrible novel attempt about a demon lord who started to question what he was doing. So some ideas will work, some ideas won't. But I think it's, and don't expect, and here's the other thing, okay, just because you've done one good thing doesn't necessarily mean that next thing you do will be great, all right? Sometimes you have duff ideas. I have duff ideas all the time. And I go, oh, that sounds like a really cool idea, and I write it down and go, actually, no, that's not... That's not going to work. But I keep it. Okay, so I've got a massive folder of things I will probably never ever use. I keep everything I write, even though it's dross. Okay, just in case it spurs something else. So I have occasionally gone back to my pile of stuff that I will never use and gone, actually, that little bit there, maybe I'll pinch that idea and reuse it in a slightly different context. So here's another piece of very good advice. Never ever throw away anything, all right? nowadays if you're writing text, there's no excuse for throwing it away because the amount of disk space it takes is trivial. So everything you write, even if you think that's never gonna see the light of day again, never ever 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 ever, because it's really really bad and I don't know why I thought of that and it's an atrocious idea. Don't throw it away. Okay, just leave it on your hard disk in a folder marked "Do not use ever" on pain of death. Okay, anything like that. But don't throw it away, just in case. Okay, just in case. Glenn says, do you ever hear your family chuckling in the next room as you dramatically read your books? Sometimes, yes. So usually I'm recording audio. Here's another thing. Okay, so audiobooks are recording an audiobook, right? Is hard because you've got to usually get everybody else out of the house. Now that's not so much a problem for me now because my kids are a bit older. One's at school, one's in his last year of school, and one's out at work. My wife is very good. She will usually hide downstairs when I'm expectorating in front of the microphone. But occasionally, then I'm doing doing that sort of thing, and hamming it up because you have to ham it up and act in front of the microphone. And then occasionally I'll get funny comments later on. Say, "Oh yes, you were doing that scene, were you?" Yeah, particularly when this is a funny thing because as a you have to narrate your book and from the points of view of different characters. Now obviously I have male and female characters in my books and all sorts of variations on science fiction monsters and all sorts of things like that, and of course you have to put on slightly different mannerisms for the different types of characters that you're dealing with, and that can be quite amusing at times, so it's worth recording the outtakes because they can be quite amusing. So there is some chuckling that goes on, but they kind of got used to it now. I think early on it was like, that's really really weird. You're standing in there saying stuff. Particularly if you have and one thing that can be a bit hard is when you kind of get to some of the slightly maybe more romantic scenes or something like that, and you're going to have to say slightly intimate prose to yourself in front of a microphone. That's a bit weird. Yes, my darling. So there we go. So that is quite weird. But it's acting. It is acting. Ray Daly Writer says the best writer quote I ever saw was Neil Gaiman. Bless him. Yep. Write whatever the fuck you want. I think that's it. What else is there, right? That's really good. So that's good. I've almost caught up. There we go. Good. Hoarding as a writing strategy. Yes, I think. Well, to be honest, I would never ever delete anything. I have got, in one case actually, a novel that is about 3/4 finished, which will never be finished. I've written it off as a thing because I actually, when I got to the end of it, I thought I don't know where I was going with this. I spent an awful lot of time writing it, but there's not actually any use. But it's probably about 70,000 words worth of stuff, and there are some nice set pieces in it, which occasionally I might mine for little bits of dialogue, or go back and read that and go, actually that bit there works quite well. Maybe I'll use something like that in another novel. So never ever throw things away. Okay, never ever throw things away. That's awesome. You have a perfectly normal family. To be honest, they're very accommodating of my writing. Because to be honest, you have to spend a lot of time. Okay, writing a book, editing a book, publishing a book, promoting a book, building a website, recording an audiobook, editing an audiobook, mucking back and forth, swearing at the computer, of course, when it breaks. Stomping around the house, getting really annoyed because you can't fix a scene or get the dialogue right or something like that. They're all things that a family needs to accommodate. All right, and writers can be famously difficult to live with, and I'm definitely in that category. Okay, my wife will roll her eyes very frequently. But on the flip side, there are some benefits that come with it. But your significant other and or your family do need to be quite accommodating of this thing that we call writing. Okay, so there's a relationship tip in there. Be aware of the impact your hobby or your profession or whatever it is that you decide to call your writing, has on other people. I think that's a good point. With audiobooks in mind, now is an awkward time to be a romance author. So I to be honest, the whole kind of romance, intimate scenes, I tend to steer away from mostly. I kind of tend to imply it in my books rather than going into, shall we say, technical detail, because it's just not me. I mean, I don't know whether I'm, that's an age thing or that's not brilliant thing. It's kind of like that can happen off camera. Well, everybody knows what happened, mostly. We all know. We just turn the page. Okay, it's the next scene, which is far easier in an ebook and an audiobook as well. So yes, that's a little bit weird. Not till after the kids go to bed. Yes, that's very important. And stop speaking before you get into trouble. The lightning cracked, illuminating the dark mountains in the distance. Kara's the night turned and said, "Honey, would you like a cup and a biscuit?" So it's and to be honest, audiobook production, apart from all the voice acting bits that we've kind of already talked of, and having the book ready to be turned into an audio, because you can't start an audiobook really until you've finished all the other book bits, i.e. creating the ebook and editing it and making sure it's fit for purpose. So you kind of almost have to have done the whole ebook thing and then you can do the audiobook. Okay, so lots and lots of work has already happened. But then there's the whole audiobook side of thing. Okay, so you need, you can go to a studio, right, and book some time there to record your audiobook, but that's really expensive, all right? That's really expensive. And so what I did is I set up my own home studio. Now that's okay, but you have to, you have to have a PC, you have to have a decent microphone, you have to have audio editing software. The cost, the upfront cost, therefore, is ramping up quite significantly by doing this thing. Then you have to be actually able to do it yourself, which is a skill we've already discussed. And then there is all the problems associated with actually recording, and these things are not obvious to start with. Okay, so your stomach rumbles, that's annoying. Cut. Or the postman rings the doorbell, cut. Or the dog barks, cut. Or the cat meows, cut. Or the central heating cuts in. On my microphone, I can hear my central heating cut in. In the summer, I can't do audiobook recording because it gets too hot in my study because of the heat. So I have to have the window open. But you can't have the window open and record audio because the birds start doing their thing. That's no good in a science fiction setting unless you've got space birds on the menu. So there's lots of things that conspire against you in your audiobook. And I live under the flight path of a classic historic airfield. So every so often in the summer, there's a wretched Spitfire that flies across, which is jolly nice if you like Merlin engines. But again, not very helpful if you're trying to record a science fiction stroke fantasy audiobook when suddenly a Merlin engine Spitfire flies overhead. So stop, cut. So recording audiobooks is fraught with all sorts of frustrations that may not immediately appear apparent, and if depending on where you live, the feasibility of setting up a home studio may not even be there at all, because it just may be impractical because you live too close to a road, or you live near a farm, or something like that, or you live near the space birds, as I do. So I live. I'm near Headcorn airfield in Kent, and we're on the flight path out of there, and they have a lot of tourist Spitfires that operate out of there. They fly tourist flights. Basically, you can hire a Spitfire, or you can hire a helicopter that flies alongside a Spitfire, and they fly over my house. On their way to the White Cliffs of Dover. So free sound effects, yes, but quite limited genre. Kelly Bagler. So J.L. Anthony, yes, Drew, in the summers you should write historical fiction set in the English countryside in the 1940s. I should, that's a really, really good. So there's all sorts of problems with those sort of things. So audiobook is actually really, really hard to do because of all those actual production issues. There's only, for me, summertime is useless. I can't do audiobooks in the summer, or at least I struggle to get time because because of noise, there's just too much noise around, and there's the kids are out and they're having fun in the summer holidays. It's really irritating. They're outside bouncing on their trampolines and screaming at the top of their heads. That's no use. And then everybody starts mowing. The moment that calms down, everyone starts mowing their lawn, or they're outside enjoying a drink and a conversation. It's like I'm trying to create an audiobook here. Why do you go? Oh, shut up. And they don't. It's just really, really weird. Springtime and autumn are actually better for audiobooks from my perspective because it's a bit quieter. Winter's a problem because in my house the central heating system cuts in and goes dunk 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 at random intervals, which isn't very helpful either. So there we go. It's all sorts of other problems associated with that. Just Merlin engine. I Wintermute. I'm not enough of an expert on the Spitfire to tell you I think it's a Merlin engine. Pricey Boys. His dad was from Kent. Excellent. Kent is has got a few literary pretensions. It's quite good. Kizzy Nick says, "Get off my lawn." Yeah. So those are the sort of problems you face. Now that doesn't apply to writing a book, but I have to say, sound distractions aren't a good thing, even when you're writing books as well. So there's all sorts of practical problems. Glenn is saying, envisioning Drew poking his head out the window, getting irate with the neighbours. Shut up, all of you! Don't you know I'm recording? You can't do that. Seems to be slightly unsociable. But the amount of noise, and you only really become conscious of the amount of noise when you're trying not to get it on your recording. It's weird. Walls creak. Floors creak, desks expand and go pop. The slightest, stomach rumblings, and that's before you get to some of the techniques of recording. If I, open my lips and get that, sound, when you're about to speak and your mouth runs dry, you tend to run your tongue over your lips to sort of lubricate them like that. But that noise comes across on the mic and you have to get rid of it because it's like, I don't want to listen to somebody going before I start talking. So there's loads of things like that you have to learn when you're putting an audiobook together, and then you have to go through the whole thing and remove all the extraneous tricky noises that us humans make when we're moving our mouths. It's really quite weird and odd. And you get used to it after a while. You look at the audio form or the audio editing, you can see there's a lip click and there's a tongue. it's all very weird. So there we go. Krilikov, a new NVIDIA noise cancelling tech. So yes, there's lots and lots of things. There is tech you can use on this as well. So things are getting more sophisticated all the time, but you still have to go through and listen to it all in your headphones and blah blah blah. So there we go. It's it's really quite weird. So there we go. Take that, kids, and shout at the birds. Kisnick, okay, serious question. Do I actually add any sound effects to your audiobooks, i.e. sci-fi noises? Now, personally, no, because I haven't got the time to do much in the way of sound effects. So I haven't got a great big library of sound Foley noises. Now, one of my audiobooks was converted by a company who did do that. That's the Elite one, Elite Reclamation, which is based on a space computer game. So it's kind of got laser sounds and ship sounds and all that sort of stuff in it, which are actually are from the game. Now, it's interesting to see the reaction to that. Some people went, it's absolutely fabulous, gives you a real sense of immersion. It's like being there. It's kind of like a radio drama. And, as they say, engage hyperspace. And you hear the hyperspace drive spinning up and doing its things, and pow, the ship goes into hyperspace. And some people absolutely loved it. Okay. Other people basically said the sound effects really get in the way of the story. Don't like them. Can't we just have a plain, audible narration? That would do me fine. And that there doesn't seem to be anything in the middle of that. People either love them or they really don't like them. And so since then I've done my audiobooks myself, mostly because it's cheaper, but partly because it gives me more executive control. And I haven't really done special effects. Okay, so I've basically just done pretty much a verbatim read with emotion in the character voices, and I've put a few audio tweaks in. So for example, if somebody is thinking something, then I'll kind of give it a bit of reverb, so it's kind of obvious to the person listening that there's, okay, this isn't actually spoken dialogue, this is going on in their head. So there's a few little tweaks like that to the audio that I've put in. But it's very much not a set of special effects. So if somebody swings a sword, there isn't a sort of clank, clank, clank sound. Or a zoom, zoom, lightsaber type thing. Nothing like that. I haven't done that. And the comments I've had back as a result of that are much, much more concerned with what's going on in the story and the characters, rather than the special effects in there or the lack of special effects. So I wonder if the special effects do in some ways detract a bit from the storytelling. I don't know, so I'd be interested in what you guys think actually about special effects in audiobooks. The only thing I have done is sort of top and tail a few bits and pieces with bits of music and sort of little stings to indicate scene changes, that sort of thing. So and it does depend a little bit on how your book is structured, because for example, if Kesnick said that there again, it's just in written form. Obviously, you can describe a noise. So if you say something like, there was a loud bong, and then there's a special effect of a dong, that's kind of a bit superfluous, isn't it? So either you're going to have to edit your audiobook to take out some of the description and replace it with sound effects, in which case you've got another piece of editing to do, or maybe you just stick with a verbatim kind of unabridged read through of the story and don't worry about the special effects. I think if you're going to do special effects, you've got to have that sort of consideration in mind, that you're probably going to have to edit your story again to turn it into that kind of audiobook. I don't know. So I'd be interested in what you guys think, is whether or not it actually does add something having special effects in audiobooks or not. Interesting question. Sharon here. Hello, Sharon. Good to see you. Thank you very much for popping in, Sharon. Always good to see you too. Drew, will you be doing a No Man's Sky stream next week? Yes, I think I'm doing one this week as well. I think I should be doing one next week as well. So yes, I'm hoping to do Expedition 3 on Thursday. Not in one go, but we'll start, see how it goes. So thank you for the follow there, Mesocurin. Appreciate that. Julia says, I think a good audiobook should replicate what it would be like to have the author telling the story around the campfire. Okay, well that's a really nice perspective on it, actually. So I think I tend to agree with you, actually. I think if you're going to go with the the special effects thing, then it's probably worth going the whole hog and turning it into a dramatised story, i.e. write it as if it was actually happening, and then the special effects kind of make more sense. Because a mix of special effects and sort of unabridged story reading kind of doesn't make sense in some ways, does it? So yeah, I quite like the fireside kind of analogy. I think that's quite good. Sharon says, I prefer reading, my fantasy does the rest. I think, if we've been talking about the pros and cons of ebooks versus audibles, and I think that's quite good. Drew Foley artist, swoom, clang, clang, there you go. Job done. So yeah, some of the thinking in the first Shadewood audiobook brought to mind some of the stuff in the old Terry Pratchett audiobooks done by Nigel Planner for ISIS audiobooks. So yes, I think we've sometimes tried to be too clever, and maybe just simple, good old-fashioned storytelling is where we should be. So there we go. Okay, well there's Kelly Baglar. See, I like the special effects in Shadewood, but didn't enjoy them in Reclamation. Okay, so maybe too much in Reclamation. So Shadewood is the one I did myself, with just a little bit of reverb here and there. And in order to do the computer voices, there are a few computer voices in those novels, I basically had a voice morpher that basically decreased the pitch of my voice slightly, so that it sounds very deep. Which I can't do for very long without throttling myself. But the computer can obviously adjust that. But you don't want to do it too much, otherwise it sounds very silly and Mickey Mouse. So little bits and bits of like that, I think are good observations. So So yeah, so that's I think Barnes Emma 50. Hi, hey, it's Emma. Hello, Barnes Emma 50. Hello, it's Emma. Hello, Emma. Good to see you. Audio level balancing of special effects and reading is also a big issue. Yeah, so you've got to go through. In fact, that's another thing that when you think you've finished your audiobook and you've got to send it to somebody like Audible, Amazon, effectively to put on their website and therefore sell on your behalf, you'll notice that you quite often it will come back with there's not the decibel level is wrong, where you've got peak music levels that are incorrect, or you haven't got enough dead space at the beginning and end of each chapter, or page break, or whatever it happens to be. There's lots of little technical things in there that will trip you up when you get to what you think is the end. You go, oh no, now I've got to go back and add in that and tweak that and change the volume levels and try and normalise it out across all of the different chapters. Because bear in mind that a Shadewood book, let's say, is about 120,000 words. They're relatively long for novels, and that's about 12 hours of audio to listen to. Okay, so a good rule of thumb is 10,000 words is about an hour's worth of end recording. Okay, but it's probably maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of actual recording, because you'll make lots of mistakes and you need to edit it back down. So 10,000 words, 1 hour of listening is about right. But of course, as you're recording that, you'll do one on Tuesday morning, you'll do another one on Thursday morning, you'll do another one on the following Friday, because you can't do 12 hours of recording in one go. Your voice will seize up and you'll do yourself a mischief. So don't do that. Try and do about an hour's worth of recording in one go at most, because your voice, you can wear it out. Okay, I've done that. I've worn my voice out and had to stop for weeks because I actually broke my voice, which was a great relief to many people, but not so good for me. So you have to bear that in mind. Now the problem with that is, of course, if you record on Tuesday, oddly enough, and you may not, this again is another thing that you may not be aware of, you don't sound the same all the time. So when you listen to yourself recorded on Tuesday, and compare yourself to when you recorded on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday with the same equipment in the same environment, you don't sound the same. All right, so you've got to adjust your voice a little bit to make sure that when somebody's going from chapter 3 to chapter 4 that were recorded on different days, they don't go, whoa, that was a bit weird, what happened there? His voice totally changed between chapters. So you've got to try. There's lots of little things like that aren't immediately obvious that you have to deal with when you're creating an audiobook. So that's the thing. Alan, a book is a book, not a radio play. Tend to agree with you. Yes, I do think. How do I get my hands on Shadewood? Shadewood is, if you look up Shadewood Saga on Amazon or Audible, you'll find it straight away. It's a series of 4 books. Shadewood 1, 2, 3, and 4, believe it or not. And the first one is Shadewood Emanation. Chris has helpfully put a link to the publisher's website in there as well. So there we go. It is in book format, so you can get it in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. So it's quite good. And JR99 is just confirming, actually, yeah. So the first 3 audiobooks are on Audible. The 4th one is on its way to Audible as we speak. It's going through the process. And then, Glenn's put a handy link to my website. Thank you, everybody, for doing my promotion with. So this is how you do marketing, basically. You come on Twitch stream and everyone does it for you. That's how it works. So that's right. So my website has been rejigged a bit. I had some problems with my hosting provider, so yes, I've had some fun and games there. It is a quadrology, yes, Mad Monk Soft. It is. It was actually going to be 5, but I ended up turning it into 4 because I'm not a big fan of padding books just for the sake of padding books. That doesn't make sense. So yes, there we go. There we go. So that's good. Ray Daily Writer, got to say, this does show me that there's an audience for streams about writing. I've never seen any before now. Well, that's interesting because, we did actually have a writing tag on Twitch for quite a while. And then one day it disappeared because I remember starting the stream up and thinking, I can't tag my stream properly. It doesn't have the right tag. And so then we went back to just chatting, which is sort of Twitch's generic, we're not doing anything particular tag. And now they've got this sort of sub tag where you can put in things like retro and writing. And now we have a writing stream. So I was skeptical as well as to whether a writing stream would be interesting for people. But, we're all here and hopefully having a good time. So... And it's nice to meet new people and share ideas because, I mean, I do have a local writing club in my area, but it's none of them are science fiction people, and I like going to meet them, but none of them are science fiction people and or fantasy in my case. So whilst it's nice to swap a few anecdotes with them, an awful lot of the time I don't have that much in common with them to talk about. Yeah, obviously the mechanics of writing books and various other things, but my favourite authors they've never heard of, and vice versa. So things like that sometimes can be difficult. And the nice thing about this is that we can say, I want a writing stream. I want it to be about science fiction and fantasy. Boom, there it is. So I'm hopeful we'll see more and more writing streams as time goes on. That would be quite good. So anyway, so if you are, I mean, very very short plug for my own Shadewood series. It is science fiction, but it's written in it's written in a fantasy style. It's not heavy. It's not a heavy-going science fiction novel. It's all about characters. And I think if you like Anne McCaffrey, you'll like Shadewood. I think that's a fair comparison. I'm very humbled by the comparison because I'm a big fan of Anne McCaffrey, but it is a sort of thing that I try to, probably not consciously, but certainly subconsciously try to emulate a bit her style of telling stories. So there we go. So drewwager.com should and you spelt my surname wrong there, Glenn. So Wager with an AR, not an ER. Very common mistake. If I had $1 for every time that my surname was spelt wrong, I wouldn't need to be here. So there we go. A question. Okay, so Kezinik, slightly other off-topic question. Do you prefer writing in a saga setting so you can spend more time and play with more ideas and seemingly writing a short story from? For me, Kezinik, that is really, really easy to answer. I much prefer a saga. I can't do short stories. I can, but I find it really hard work. One of the challenges for the 9 streams of consciousness stuff that we did a year or so ago was trying to write something short enough where something happened, because I'm a expansive storyteller. I like lots of space to explore ideas and descriptions and character arcs and overlapping plots and multiple levels and all that sort of stuff. And I can't condense what I do into a few thousand words. I just can't do it. So I'm a saga kind of person. Okay, so my plots are multi-book long. I like to override things and have characters go through multiple stages in their evolution. They might be good, they might become bad, they might become annoyed, they might become selfish. All sorts of things will happen to the characters along the way. And I like to go to lots of different places, and the characters have to voyage, and they have to meet up, and then they have to split apart and do different things. I like all of that stuff when I'm in my storytelling. So trying to do short, really focused pieces, I find really, really hard. I'm not very good at that. So it's all that sort of stuff. So big spanning epics is what I like to do. What's my view on the Hobbit books versus the film? 3 films for 1 book, and Lord of the Rings having 3 films for 3 books. Now I must admit, before seeing Lord of the Rings, I was very much of the opinion it can't be done. Can't be done. Those books are just too amazing to convert to film. Having seen one after each other as they came out originally at the cinema, the Lord of the Rings films, I was mightily impressed. I have to say I was mightily impressed, because I felt whilst there were quite a lot of changes made between the plots of the film and the books, lots of things cut out. Actually, some bits cut out I agreed should be cut out. Things like Tom Bombadil and all that nonsense. But quite big changes of plot in terms of what some of the characters did and where they ended up. The elves turning up at Helm's Deep, things like that. But I kind of got why they were doing those changes, and I really felt that the films nailed the atmosphere of Lord of the Rings really, really well. Places how I imagined things in my head look pretty much exactly as they appeared on screen. It was like I forget who the director was. It was like he read my mind, and many other people felt that what they saw on screen was pretty much what I had in my imagination when I was reading the books. I thought they did nail that. Now The Hobbit, I didn't like it. I liked going back to Middle Earth, but it was awfully stretched out. Too many computer gamey sort of scenes, the Mines of Moria, or the bit where Bilbo finds the ring. That bit was quite well done actually, where he and Gollum meet. That bit I thought was okay, but the running around in the mines, swinging across the bridges and all that sort of rubbish. The silly barrel out, the barrels out of the Elven Kingdom down the river shooting the orcs. That was awful. And the whole business of Lake Town. And who is the chap in charge of Lake Town? Who's the actor there? Can't remember his name. Used to host QI. What's his name? I can't remember his name. I'm useless. All that sort of stuff. Stephen Fry. Now, Stephen Fry is a bit of a national treasure, and you must be very wary of criticising Stephen Fry. But my problem with Stephen Fry is he's not an actor. Okay, when he is, and when he tries to be an actor, he's always the same person. Okay, he's Stephen Fry. He's not an actor. He's a lovely chap, and I could listen to him read an audiobook. I think he's really, really good at that. And he's got all sorts of interesting opinions, and he's a very knowledgeable chap and a very well-read chap. All that sort of stuff is absolutely admirable. But he's not an actor, and I thought he was appallingly cast in that role. So lots and lots of things about The Hobbit, as far as I was concerned, just totally kind of spoilt it. And it's the problem with The Hobbit is it was a child's book, and it was sort of elevated to the same stature as Lord of the Rings, which it really just isn't capable of being. So I would have left that alone, personally. I had huge admiration for the Lord of the Rings films, but The Hobbit left me cold, alas. So there we go. That's my view on that one. So there we go. Pricey Boy can get all 4 books for £13. Well, that's okay. Enjoy. And this is our group, the Wagerites. Well, the Druids we call ourselves, yeah. So that's good. I should register waffle.co.uk. I suspect it's probably gone. So there we go. And how often do I get my surname wrong? Wager would be a risky surname to have. See what you did there, Julia. Very good. Sharon said, by the way, thank you, Drew, to add the other elite stories to your website again. Yeah, sorry those went offline a little bit, Sharon. I'm still waiting for if anybody knows how to get in touch with Matthew Lehman, by the way, because both of the PDFs for his stories got corrupted again in my website backup, which failed rather dramatically. So once I've got them back, I will upload them again. They're the unofficial sequels to my other stories. Very, very worthy, but they're not available at the moment because I don't have copies of them. So I'm trying to get hold of Matt Lehman to get the PDFs back. So if anybody can reach, I've tried to catch him on Twitter and on the official forums, but yeah, he hasn't responded to me yet. So I'm hoping he will, so we can reinstate those as possible. Peter Jackson, yes. So. The elves at Helm's Deep was one moment that made me go. I mean, the Helm's Deep was one bit that really made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up in a good way. The scene where the orcs attack Helm's Deep and the ladders go up. Because I was watching that thinking, okay, well, this is going to be interesting. How are they going to do this attack scene? Because the orcs are down at the bottom. Okay, that Helm's Deep wall looks to be at least 50 feet, maybe even 100 feet high. How the hell are the orcs even going to get up there? The archers have got them pinned down from the top. Yes, they can fire arrows up there. And I was thinking, well, how are they going to do this siege? Because this looks really, really hard to attack. And they did that wonderful, absolutely wonderful scene with the ladders. And if you've watched it, you know the ladders go up in that beautiful curving attack. And I remember thinking, oh my God, the orcs have actually come prepared and they know what they're doing. And I was watching this thinking, I would be so terrified if I was standing at the top of Helm's Deep trying to defend that place, and suddenly I saw those ladders come up festooned with things. I thought that was done absolutely brilliantly. I've never seen anything so impressive fantasy attack wise. I rate the Helm's Deep attack scene over the Minas Tirith one, actually, the Plenor Fields. I think the Helm's Deep one is better. I was really blown away by how well they did that. So that's good. The Hobbit should just have been one movie, I think. Yeah, I think that's very true. Pricey Boy just bought my books. Yay! Always nice to hear. That's one of the things that us authors really like. So there we go. Drew, have I tried the Internet Archive for offline stuff? Yes. So yes, I have. Yeah. So the Wayback Machine, things like that, are really, really good. So that's quite good. Yeah, the Siege Ladders were very scary, but very, very, very effective and well done. Right. Anyway, my friends, it's I've gone on half an hour longer. I feel like we could just keep talking like this for hours and hours. We might continue this on next week because it's been quite good fun just to have an open session on questions. So, thank you ever so much for everybody who's turned up today. I really do appreciate it. Lovely to have a chat and lovely to connect with a few other new writers today, and readers too, which is what it's all basically about. So thank you for the follows, thank you for the subscribes, thank you for chattering away and talking about it. Thank you for the follow there, Ray. I will do the same once I get back to Twitter in a bit. So that would be really, really good. It's been an absolute pleasure. So yeah, we'll definitely do some more of this sort of stuff again because it's just nice to chew the fat about writing and science fiction, fantasy, and all that sort of stuff. So thank you very much to the new folks who've popped along. Really appreciate your company. Lovely to see you. Be good. Keep writing, okay? Keep writing. That's the important bit. Never give up. Never surrender. Another favourite film. Lovely to see you all. Take care of yourselves. I will be back on Thursday as we play on through No Man's Sky, and then on Saturday there's this Saturday I'm afraid there probably won't be a retro stream because we're starting off with my son's 80th birthday celebrations, but we'll definitely be back on Monday. So lovely to see you. Take care of yourself. Have a fantastic week ahead. Keep writing, and I will see you anon. So be good, my friends. Have a fantastic week ahead. See you soon. Be good. Take care now.